Jordan was on the ads team, and he's like, there's got to be a better way.
Hey, wouldn't it be easier? Testing, 1, 2, testing.
Facebook was one of the first big products that was really an experience more than anything else. And as such, the user interface itself needs to be really pleasing.
The product itself got more complex, and as we added more engineers to the team, we didn't hit a wall, but it started to get really, really hard to make changes. That was around the time that Jordan was on the ads team, and he's like, there's got to be a better way.
Hey, wouldn't it be easier if anytime anything happened, API state changes, user types something, we just blow away the entire UI and we re-render all of it? It was so far outside of everybody's idea of how things should work and do work. Yeah, it took a lot of convincing.
Honestly, I thought it was completely crazy. There was no way that was going to work.
I still remember like this wow moment when I actually tried it and like it actually worked.
It's this great example of this like underdog technology within a big company where there could have been these forces that really pushed back on it. So it felt like this very indie Rebel Alliance type of project.
If you want to spread an idea, you need to really convince a few people and have those people share your message. You can't just be shouting it yourself.
We started working on a JavaScript library that helps us do that, and we call it React.
It turned into a bit of a troll fest for no good reason.
I don't think that it was clear that it was going to become a popular project. To be honest, I think that it very easily might not have been.
I like React's story though, because it's like, it was a slow burn. Yeah, it's a real slow burn.
Hi guys, I hope mnanisikia. So let's give people a few minutes or join and then we start. Let's give people 3 more minutes and then we start at 8:10. Hi guys, so thanks for joining. My name is Alvin, and today I'm going to take you through introduction to React. We're going to learn the basics of React. So this session is for someone who knows a bit of JavaScript, knows HTML and CSS, and now wants to learn React so that they can build web applications the way it is being done today. So yeah, so let me share my screen so that you can start. And as I go through the session, in case you don't understand something, you can just unmute yourself and ask the question. So feel free to interrupt me. So yeah. Hi, so we are going to start. I'm assuming that you've all installed an IDE, so you can have let me. So you can download Visual Studio Code. This is one of the preferred IDEs. So and it is very lightweight. So in case of low powered machine, this should be able to run. Personally, I to use one that is called WebStorm. So if you want to download that, you can still come here and download it. So this is the one that I'm going to use. But the whole process of working and writing React code should be the same. So yeah, so download this your an IDE so that you're able to write code and we can work together. So yeah, so we're going to start. I'm going to create a new project using WebStorm that is called Learn React. So you can start. So I'm going to open a terminal. Let me zoom in so that you can see better. Let me do 125%. Okay, I hope now you can see better. So okay, so we're going to start by the first thing we need to do is to install React, and you can go to the React website. So you come here, go to the React website. And then where exactly do they show you? You can come here and do Learn React, and then installation on the left side, and then how to start a new React project. So creating a new React project, you can create it in different ways, but you can follow through with the way I am going to do it, and things should work out. So we're going to create a React app by writing this code. It's npx create React app, and then you give it the name that you want. So we can go and call it Learn React. So if you're following through, this is the process. You do npx, then you use this command called create React app, and then you give the name that you want, and you ensure if there are two words, you put a hyphen or an underscore. So it can be learn hyphen React underscore React, so that it takes it as one word or one string. So and React. So that shouldn't take too long, but you're going to wait for it to finish running.
Alvin?
Yeah, Nesbit, you've raised your hand.
We don't require virtual environment.
Pardon? I haven't heard you clearly. What have you asked?
I'm asking,
Uh-huh.
do we require a virtual environment?
No, you do not need a virtual environment. You just so if you're using what do I call it? If you're using another method of creating a project, you can come to any directory. So you can come to like I've come to my D directory, and then here you can create a new folder and call it whatever you want. So for example, we are doing Learn React. You can create a folder called Learn React, and then inside here you can start your project. So whatever all the code you write, all the packages you install will just be installed in this folder. So you do not need a virtual environment. So yeah, so this is another method. You can come here, and then if you're using Windows, you do CMD here. You just type CMD and you press enter. It will open for you a terminal, and then you will write the same command we had here: npx create React app, then you do React. This is another method of starting your project. So yeah, you should know that. So we do not need a virtual environment. So proceed, yes. So you can ignore the warning signs that it is telling you. You can't control those. So long as it runs completely until the end without any errors, just ignore the warning signs here.
Oh, hello.
Yes.
Oh, so I'm trying to install the npm package on my Visual Studio Code through the terminal, but inasema failed to fetch the sijui something from Ubuntu. Issue inaweza kuwa gani hiyo, ama there is something bado sija download any package sija download?
Umerun command gani?
Hii hii iko hapa kwa nini documentation yake. Hii ya npx create new next app at latest.
Yeah, usirun hiyo ukirun ita install next.js, but hatutumii next.js today, tunatumia tu the vanilla React. So let me this is the command in case you want it, ndio hii hapa. So npx create react app my app.
Unaweza post kwa chats.
Yeah, I can post.
Okay.
So hapo kwa my app you can give it whatever name you want. So just give it time. It takes a while, but this is what you should get. You should install everything, and then at the end it should tell you how to start a development server, how to build, how to test, how to eject, and then it should tell you happy hacking. So if that has happened for you, we can continue. If it hasn't, just wait for it to finish. Itamaliza tu. Felix, I am using WebStorm. It's called WebStorm. If you want to use the same as mine, you come to jetbrains.com and you look for WebStorm. That's the idea I'm using. But you can also use Visual Studio Code. Martin, kindly copy paste the error, then nione, and then I'll help you. I'll help you out. Send it up kwa chat too. Okay, so since that has installed, let's go. So the structure a React application iko na node modules. This is where all the packages that you install or that are needed to run a React application are saved. So if you install a package that helps you connect to Firebase, so if you do npm install Firebase, itakuwa saved kwa node modules. And then there's another folder called public. Public is the one that when you've built your application, so once you've written all your code and you've built the application, now you want to host it somewhere. So for example, you want to host it on AWS using, I think, Amplify. This is the folder that you will link to when you're doing when you're publishing your application. You will use the public folder, and then the source folder. This is where now your work is. This is where you will write all the code. This is where you will do all the coding, in short. So so the app.css, this is the first file we come across. This is a CSS file that is linked to the app.js. So you can see here that we import the app.css that is going to change how this component behaves or looks, in short. So that's the app.css. Then this is a test file. So today we're not going to talk about testing, but that's a test file. Then there's index.css. This is a CSS file for the index.js. So now you can see the naming standard for React applications. You name your files such that it is very easy to tell what that file is doing. So you can clearly tell that this app.css file is the CSS for the app.js file. Same thing with the index.css and the index.js. So ensure that when you're writing your code, it is easy to tell what your code is doing and also what your files are, what code is in these files. So index.js, and then there's the logo.svg. This is just the React logo that comes with that. And then there are other files like this one that reports the web vitals. We're not going to talk about that. And then finally, another final test file. So the files that we're going to spend most of our time is the index.js. This is just the root file. This is where if you have another component, so we're going to learn about things called components. If you have another component and you want it to be seen on the web, on the application, it is going to come in here. So you can clearly see that our app component is, we are inputting it here. So this is our root file. That's why it's called the index.js. For those who know JavaScript, they know that index.js is like main.py for Python develops the root file. That's just the naming standard. So the reason why app application is going to be visible is because this app has been input into the root file. So where exactly our code is in the app file. So this is our app file, and this might look like it is HTML, but today we're going to learn about this syntax or this code that is called JSX. So we're going to first of all start our application. So you can come to the package.json, and then you will see that here there are some scripts here. And these scripts are the ones that you use for running your application. So you can start your application, you can build your application, you can run tests on your application, you can eject things from your application. So we're going to do start. But if you do not want to do this, you can also come to the terminal and do npm run start. So it's the same thing here. npm run start is the same as clicking here, run start. So yeah, so let me help Martin fail to fetch that some apples to get update. I don't know if this is a problem with your operating system. It seems it is lacking some packages. I don't know how exactly to help solve this problem. Okay, so but I hope you can still follow along. So in case once you fix the issue, you can remember what you've done and then start the application yourself. So yeah, so the application has run. Let me show you. So it has run at localhost 3000. In case you have any other applications running on your machine, it might not run at localhost 3000. So you can just check your terminal here and see where it has told you it has run. I think it should tell you. Yeah, here it tells you you can now view learn React in the browser, local, and then use this URL, whether it is 5000, 3001, whatever. That's the one, in case you have other applications running. So we can now clearly see here that this is our application is running, and we can so let's do this so that close other tabs. Yeah, so on I hope you can see on the left I have the code, and then on the right I have this. So if we change here and say learn React today and save, it changes immediately. You don't need to refresh the browser, you do not need to do anything. You just need to save the application, and then it updates your web page. So you do not need to refresh or anything. The application, the server that you're running is running a certain function called the live reload. So in case you save your application, it just updates immediately. So yeah, so just know that I've just saved and then it has changed. So yeah, so let's get to writing some bit of code. I'll delete all of this, and then we'll start from scratch. I'll also delete the CSS. Don't need to do that today. So yeah, I also don't want this to affect my code. So we come here. Okay, so let's write this from scratch also. So this is our this is how a React page or component is going to be structured. You will first of all have to write. React is built on things called components, and components are just pieces of the user interface that have their own appearance and also have their own functionality. So for example, on this website hapa ya WebStorm, you can clearly tell that there is this top part here. Then there is like the nav bar that has this button called pricing, and that this drop down called overview. So these are all different components. So this button can be its own component, and this component and also this drop down can be its own component. Then this banner here that has the words WebStorm, the JavaScript and TypeScript ID is its own component. So these components are the ones that are brought together to make a web application using React. And the reason why that is being done, if you are here at the beginning, there's a short documentary that I was showing. The reason why they did that is because when they were building Facebook, they had one large application for the facebook.com website, and that became very difficult to update. So for example, you wanted to change how the news feed works, or you wanted to change how the button in a certain profile page works, you would have to update the whole profile page, or sometimes you even have to update the whole facebook.com website. And that became really complex. The reason why they did that is so that you can just change the code for the pricing button, and then you don't need to change anything else. So for us to start to have an application like this one, a web application like this one, you first of all come here, and these components are function based, meaning you have your own you create a function that now has this that says that this is a button, or this is a nav bar, or this is so they are function based. And also the web pages themselves are also components. So this whole web page here that is telling us about WebStorm is also a component itself of the root. So you remember here we have the index.js, and you can see here that app is part of the root, such that if you remove this app here, if you remove the application that hapa yenye ilikuwa inatupea error, imeacha kutupea error, but ukirudisha app, acha turudishe app, then you save, itarudi itupee error. Why? Because the app sizing error because I've deleted everything. But now since I've returned the app file, itatupea error. Each page is a component root, the root page. So now we're going to start the first page, and the first page we're going to write a function, and we're going to call it function app. So this is just the default JavaScript way of writing a function. You write function, you name your function, you put the this brackets, and then you do curly braces, and then you return. And then the return, once you open the return, you will notice that it is giving you an error. This is because this function, or now this component in React, is expecting some piece of code here. It cannot return empty, cannot return nothing. So it needs some bit of code here. So the first we can, since this is a component of the root file, we do not need to start by saying HTML and then we write a HTML page like this. Since it is a component of the root page, we just need to start by doing div, and we create a div. A div is just a container for those who are new to HTML. It contains anything. So for going to do a div that contains a h1 tag that says hello world, and then you can see that ile error yenye ilikuwa hapa kwa return imeenda. So you save, then yeah, so this is an error, and this error is saying that this although we have our function component, we need to export it so that it can be used in these applications. You see here, we are importing app from app, and then we're using it like this. So we need to do export default app. This means that you're exporting this app function. That's one. This default means that this is the default export for this file. So for this file, there's no other function that we are exporting. But if you had another function here, like called button and something like that, you would not put default here. You just put export. You'd even have to come here and do export function up, and then you do also here export function button, so that this button is usable somewhere else. But since this file is just going to contain this app component, we are just going to do export default app. That's it. And now when we save, remember you just need to save, you don't need to refresh. When we save, it should work and tell us hello world. So what we've learned here is that a component of React is first of all component based, meaning that everything is a component. So if you want to build a button, you'd better build it such that it is a component, such that if you need to change the code and the functionality and the appearance of that button, you do not need to re-render the whole page. You just need to re-render that component called button, such that if you have a large application, you're just going to refresh the button itself, such that the rest of the application remains the way it is, and it ensures that your application is fast and your users don't struggle to use your application. So that's one thing. The second thing, we've seen that every component is we can remove this. Every component is function based. So you write a function, you name the function, meaning that you're naming the component, and then you return some JSX code. So JSX, I think it stands for JavaScript extension or something like that, because it is an extension of the native or vanilla JavaScript code. So this is the JSX JSX code. Here you use JSX code, and you do not need to write the whole HTML page. You just need to write the div, the container for that page. If you want to know more reasons why we are not writing the whole HTML page, is because the index.js here is taking in the app, and in addition to that, you can see here it is saying react dom.create root, and it is, for those who know JavaScript, this is saying document.get element by ID, and it is replacing that element that has the ID of root with this piece of code in here. But you might ask yourself, where is this element that has the ID of root? And the code is here in the public file folder, in the index.html. There is a div here, a container here that has the ID of root. So you see, you can't come in here and then you do your HTML, you write your own HTML page in here. You see, that would be redundant. If you think about it kidogo, utaona this piece of code you're writing here is actually being translated and uploaded here, such that this div is being replaced with the code that you've written. So tunaona ukikuja hapa uandike your HTML code, your HTML page yote inakuja inawekwa hapa tena. So inakuwa a bit redundant because now you have two HTML pages inside. You see now the code won't look well. So that is where your code actually goes. But do not ever edit this. Okay, you can delete these comments, but do not edit this document yourself. The index.html, you shouldn't be the one to edit yourself. You should write your code in the source folders here, and then once you build your application, the index.html file will be edited by your build process. So once you do npm run build or npm run start, that is the one that edits the index.html. So don't edit it yourself. You will encounter errors that you might not be able to understand where they're coming from. So yeah. So we've learned about JSX. We've learned that you also need to export your components so that they can be used in the root file or the index.js file. Okay, so that's it. So how do we now nest up components within each other? We've seen how it is being done a bit here, but let us do it ourselves. So we have this app component. We can now come here and create a new folder. Let's create a new folder called components. Then inside here, we create a new file and we call it button.js. So here we now start again creating our component. So we create a function and we can call it my button. And then you need to return. Remember, you need to return. And then here you need to return a div. So you can return a div that says button click me. And you remember that for us to use this button component somewhere else, we need to export it. So we do export default my button. So with that, you can come to your app.js, and then for you to use it, you come to the top of your file here and you do import my button from so you can just do components / button.js, and then you come and use your button here like this. You only need to write the function name. You see the way HTML tags look like. So you just need to write your function name, and then you put it inside a self-closing tag. So just the way you would do with an image. You see the way you do an image tag, sorry. An image tag inakuanga hivi, img, and then it is self-closing like that. So now that's the same structure we use for other components that we want to use in another component. So you do my button, you just name it, the name that you used for the function. Where is it? We'll fix that error, but the name that you used for the function here, my button, and the one that you used to export These all should be the same, like that. So you just import it like that. So let's figure out why this error is happening. A mode not found, error attempted to import components, a button which falls outside the project source. Relative imports outside the source are not supported. You can either move it inside source or add. Okay, so we come here. I don't know if this will work. Let's see how it will import for us so to fix that error. So, for example, if you're using an IDE, I think Visual Studio Code is also the same. It will, if you do this, it will give you a squiggly line below the component name, and then it will tell you, it will give you options. So insert, import my button from there. So let's see if this will work. Great. So the only difference is you need to do dot. If you do it like this, it is assuming that components is outside of the source folder. So you see, it tells you, it gives you this error. It is saying you can either, it says that /components, which falls outside the project source directory. So you can either move it inside that and do that. So it is telling you, you need to start with /. So you come here and you do dot, and then you save, and it works. So now you can clearly tell that my button, that the code is here. I've nested it within the app.js component. So you can, this is how you nest components within other components. So that's how we do it.
I have a question, Kiasi. So now ume import button.js to app.js, right?
Yes.
Then how comes hapa chini naona export default app? Then una export your app where?
So this component ni app, and then this component ni button. So for this app.js component, for it to display this code hapa kwa, so that you can see the button and hello world, you need to export it such that itatumika kwa index.js. Yeah, such that you do the same thing. Tunaona venye tumeimport hapa app from .app. Ni the same thing tumefanya na hii button, tukai-import it hapa my button. Yeah, so that's how you nest components within other components. Yeah.
So you export content the app.js to index.js and just say as you could run from there.
Correct. Since this index.js is our root file, this is the one that actually edits the HTML file, ndio ina display this code hapa. So the HTML file that is the one that is being edited ni ile nimeonyesha hapa, this index.html. So hapa kwa hii div inaitwa id root, hapa ndio kwenye this code is actually being, you can clearly see, let me show you. So you come hapa kwa console and you can see that ukiwa kwa elements tab ya console, okay, how do you get here? You can do Control Shift I, itafungua your developer tools, or you can come hapa kwa these three dots, and then you scroll down, you come to more tools, and then for more tools you'll see developer tools hapo. So you click there, then it opens this developer tools, and then you can clearly tell kwa body, you see the body tag, see this is the HTML document. Inside the body tag there is this div here that contains id root. and exactly this other one here in index.html. So this is where our code actually lives. So unaona this is empty kwa WebStorm, kwa IDE hapa hakuna anything, but the one that is being viewed kwa Chrome actually has a div, and this div is the one that contains hello world and another div that contains a button, and you can clearly tell that that code is coming from the app.js because it is this one that has h1 hello world and also has my button, which is also a div that contains a button. You can clearly confirm here that it is a div that contains a button that says click me. So you can see that tumenest button.js within app.js, and then app.js is within another file called index.js, and the index.js file is the one that updates the index.html page. So you do not need to write HTML code here. So I hope that is clear. So yeah, another thing that you should know is you do not need to start with a div, not necessarily a tag called a div. You can start with a tag called that is just like this. It is called a fragment. So this is a new tag for those who are just coming from HTML. It is called a fragment, where you just do open angle bracket, closing angle bracket, and then you do the closing tag. So instead of naming it div, you leave it empty with no name, and it is called a fragment. A div contains certain stylings that you might not want your application to have. So so if you just do you put it empty like this, it is called a fragment, and it essentially contains almost zero stylings, such that you don't need to such that the code that will be in here won't necessarily behave the same way it would if you have a div. I hope that makes sense. You don't need to start with a container that called a div. You can start it with empty tags that is called a fragment. So that's something you should know. So one other thing we need to know is how to style our tags. In HTML, you usually have a stylings.css file, and you write your stylings there, and then they edit your code, and that's the same thing here. But instead of writing here class and you give it a name, so class, for example, time to suggest here. Class here means a completely different thing in React. Since React is JavaScript based, class here is what is it called? It is a keyword that is reserved for JavaScript, such that when you're writing classes in JavaScript, you use the word. So because that is now conflicting with the JSX code, the people at React decided that you use the word class name. So you do your tag, and then you do class name. Instead of class, you use the word class name, and you remember that it uses capital N but small c, and then you give it the name. So title, and then you come, remember, app.js here is the one that is dealing with the JavaScript, and then the app.css is the one that deals with the CSS. Then you come here and you do dot title, and then you give it so a random color. So color that, I don't know what color that is, light blue, whatever. So if you come here and do Control S to save, it should edit the color here. Let me I don't know why it's not editing title up title. Let's try. Okay, let's try and restart the server. I think that's something to do with CSS. Let's see if it will work. It is not editing the styles. I do not know why. So this is how we do color that. Let's do color. Let's do red. Okay, that is also not working. Let's try this. I've remembered why. Let me return that. So it's class name, title, but we've not imported the app.css file. So we need to come here and do import that from that. I don't know if that will work. I hope that. Let us confirm with index.js how they've imported styles. So this is how styles are imported. Just so you know, you import it like that. You don't need to call that. Just say import and then the style file. And you remember that it should start with // if it is within the source folder. So we do Control S. Yeah, now that has worked. So what we've learned is you do not use the word class because that is reserved for JavaScript, the language. So you use the word class name, and then you give it the name, and you also remember to import the CSS file. So within the CSS file, you can write whatever CSS you want. You can do size 50 pixels. You see it increases in size, yeah, like that. So that's why you write your CSS styling. So one last thing before I stop is I would like us to go through something called conditional rendering, where you render certain pieces of code depending on certain conditions. So in JavaScript, you usually do if-else statements. So you can come so out here. Let's do it here. So you can do if a certain number, so number is greater than 10, do a certain thing. Else do something else. So this is what you call conditional statements. So from that, we now learn something called conditional rendering, where you render something if a certain condition is met. So for example, here we can simulate a certain variable called variable var, or let's use the new keywords. So const, for those who don't know, const is constant, stands for constant, meaning that you can't come here and do number and you change the value of number to 11. It will give you an error and it will tell you attempt to assign to constant or read only variable. So it's giving you a suggestion, replace with let. If you use the keyword let or var, the normal var, it will let you change the number to 11. But if you put it as const, it will give you an error. And these are the occasions where you do not want a certain variable to change the value. Like for example, you have a user and you have a user ID, and you do not want that user ID to change so long as that user is logged in, such that you can use that user ID everywhere in your application, and the application will only render content that user is allowed to see and to interact with. So you use the keyword const. So if const is let's call it 15, it should render some variable called let's do let content be that. So this is just declaring a variable. We've called it content. So we'll say content will be equal to, let's do my button. Else if the number is not greater than 10, content will be empty. So we do not even need to, or we can just put a random tag. Let's say it's a p tag that says number is less than 10. So now, since we've done that, sorry, let me. Sorry. Okay. Let me finish quickly. Don't keep you guys here. So yeah, since we've done this conditional statement here, and we've declared these two variables, variable called content and number, this code will run, but we will not see anything change in the web because we've not used the code within our JSX. So now the variable content is not being used anywhere to be seen. So instead of using my button here, we're going to use curly braces content. So this is how. So if you want to write any JavaScript code within the JSX, so if you remember, this is the JSX code, and I've commented here JSX code. So if you want to write any JavaScript code, like pure vanilla JavaScript, you put the curly braces and then you do whatever. So if you want to have a function and you call it calc, so this is where you do a plus b, do return something like that, and then a and b. So if you want to write JavaScript code, you have to put these curly braces there, so that it tells the React application that this is the JavaScript and the rest of the application is the JSX code. So yeah, just so that you know that. So this is JavaScript here saying that we are putting in this variable called content. Whatever content will be, depending on the application, that is what we want here. So we can save. Then you can see nothing has changed because our number is 15. But if we put the number as 1 and do save, it will tell us number is less than 10. So we can return this to 15 and save again. The button click me has appeared. So yeah, the button click me here has appeared. So yeah, so I think I will stop at that. That is something called conditional rendering. And yeah, before I stop, let me show you a different way. Instead of doing if statements like this, and yeah, instead of doing that, you can change from that to this. You do what are they called? Ternary operators. Ternary operator. This is a spelling. Ternary operator is this. Oh, and also if you want to what is it called? To comment something in the JSX. This is the syntax. That's the syntax of ternary operators, of commenting in JSX. So you do just the way you do a if statement, but you do number greater than 10, then you do question mark, and then you do so my button. So yeah, so it checks if number is greater than 10, so the question mark. If this is true, it shows my button. Else, if that is not true, it shows number is less than 10. So it's exactly this piece of code we've written here. So this we can comment it out, and can even comment this whole part here. And return the const number 15 like that. So we've now simplified our code like that. So it's just that. So if we save this, it should still work. If we return this to 1 or like that, it should tell us number is less than 10. So this is called a ternary operator. You don't need to use it. You don't even need to know about it, but it just helps you simplify your code. But if this is difficult to understand, just use the if statements. So yeah, I'm sorry for spending too much of your time. I hope you've been able to learn something new today about how to use React. Next week, I think you'll be having Leon. I'm not sure. We'll see, and yeah, he'll take you through the rest of the things to do the React, and you'll be able to learn more on how to use React to build web applications. So yeah, in case anyone who has a question, the next session will be Tuesday next week. So same time Tuesday next week. Any other question? You can unmute and say something, and then we can end the session. So if there's any other question, we'll stop there. Have a lovely night. Good night.
Likewise, Alvin.
Yeah, thank you, Nesbit.